is another chapter that you're hinting at. And it's called The Toll Booth at the Edge of Average. I'm a 55 pluser, okay? I've lived in more than one 55 plus community. People constantly moving in because some of them are moving out and some of them are moving down. I think you know what I mean. And so people constantly coming in, one of the first questions they want to know, since they're 55 plus, generally 65, 70 and more, do you have a good doctor? I say, yeah. Oh, where's he located? Well, he's located in such and such a place. That's far. I said, do you want good or do you want close? They don't want to pay the toll of excellence, which is to travel a little further. You just alluded to that same concept. Many people are not willing to pay the toll of trying to think slightly out of that box. And uncommon sense says, you gotta do it.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. It's the author podcast where you get to meet great people. And I'm excited to have Jack on my screen. He has probably the most expensive closet you've ever heard of, which is going to be fun. We'll chat about that a little bit. But Jack's here on the show. He's a great author. He's a great person to talk to. I've been saving him for the last of my day today, and I'm excited. We're going to do a little dance together, Jack and I, in this conversation. He's going to lead, I'm going to follow, and we're going to have a great conversation. Jack, welcome to the podcast as my guest. Glad to have you here.
I'm delighted, and thank you for mentioning my closet, which is an 800 square foot apartment.
Okay, so we have to start with that, Jack, because that's like the coolest thing I've heard in a long time. You have this place, your place. You get to stay elsewhere, but you kept your place, and it's just this beautiful big closet, right?
You don't have to say elsewhere. You can be straightforward.
Right? Yes.
You know, my girlfriend says that when I write, I'm naked. She doesn't mean it literally. She means that I reveal everything, and that's who I am. I'm very straightforward, kind of Bronx guy, New Yorker that is straight in your face. Right. And so I live with my girlfriend. I love it. We both live in a 55 plus community. Nice. And we live 4 minutes apart. And the reason I don't move in here totally is we can't both fit all of our clothing in the 2 closets that exist here. So I have an apartment and I go home every day to change my clothes.
Makes sense. Makes sense
to me.
It does. Now, okay, we're hearing that New York accent and people are like, wow, like to have 2 places in New York's got to be expensive. But no, where are you now?
I live in Boca Raton, Florida, nice. And we live in Century Village, and it's about 5,000 residents, everybody living in apartments. And we each have an apartment here, which is wonderful, 4 minutes apart, as I said. And I am a New Yorker. I actually didn't have an accent till I arrived in Florida.
I tell everybody I don't have a Canadian accent, and they're like, oh, yes, you do. Yes. So I know what that's all about. I like that. Jack, yeah, I tell you this when you came on the camera, you just got this big smile, such a happy guy. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, Jack? Like some of the things you've been doing in the past. I know you're an avid dancer. You can shake it and do all the things, which is amazing. But tell us a little bit more about your time in New York and maybe that. I'd like to kind of give some background to you as well.
I was an educator, and I'll be a lifelong educator, just as I'll be a lifelong learner as a result of being an educator, because you can't be a good teacher without being a good learner. They go hand in hand. And I was a teacher, principal, assistant to superintendent, and taught about every grade 6 through college, math, science, social studies, English. I love having the opportunity to give back. I've since discovered, since I'm an old dude and had a lot of chance, a lot of opportunity to think about it, I probably wanted to do that because I wanted to give back to all the wonderful people in schools that helped this kid who was hopelessly behind. I was always the smartest kid in the dummy class. And I never had fewer than 30 absences. I was a notorious truant. My mother, unfortunately, despite her wonderful qualities, encouraged me to stay home and wanted me to be sickly, which I really wasn't. And I fell behind in math and science and in reading. I was in the special reading class. And so I did extremely well in school by overcoming deficits. And I think that leads into my book and why I would write such a book about uncommon sense.
And then your passion for dancing. I think that's another part of you as well, Jack, that I think feeds every little piece of what we do and who we are, make us, right, who we are and what we bring to what we do as an author for you. That's another big part of who you are. Can you talk a little bit about your dancing?
It's an interesting part for other reasons, though.
Yeah.
Yes, people look at me and they think, oh, my God, he's a professional salsa dancer. Yeah. He dances freestyle whenever people want to do that. He's a ballroom dancer. He's taught dance, and they call me the dancer. But what they don't know is I didn't dance until I was in my 50s. I couldn't do it. And even within my book, it's about when you believe so strongly in something negative, you cause it. And the uncommon sense is to understand that confidence causes competence and not the other way around. And I once, one day in my 50s, said, I'm going to learn how to dance. And I went to a place and I danced once and I came back the next night and I did it again. And then I went and took a dance lesson and turned the lady. And when I got in the car, I cried like a baby. I said, I can do this. I can do this. So this is how people have to be. They have to finally make a decision to do something, and they have to say to themselves, yeah, I have to create a positive self-fulfilling prophecy, not a negative one. So this person that everybody looks at as a dancer didn't dance till his 50s. And frankly, I didn't cook till I was 65. And now at 76, I'm writing 4 cookbooks simultaneously. And it's because those things are within all of us. We just have to recognize that there's a little price to pay, but if we're willing to pay that price, we're ready to change our lives and do so for the best.
So, Jack, we have authors who listen to the show, and maybe they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they want to write, but it's new for them. It's something they've never done before. You talked about a bunch of things you've done that are new for you, and it just happened to be the right thing for you. Dancing, cooking, all these things are new. For somebody listening and they're thinking, maybe it's too late for me to start a new project. What would you say to them, Jack? Come on.
No, actually, in a sense, it may be an ideal time, and I'll tell you why. In my case, people all throughout my life, when I'm busy pontificating, as you can tell from my personality, excuse me, somebody would conclude and say, oh, Jack, you should write a book. Every time I'm interested in something that I say, oh, Jack, you should write a book. I always said no, but let's face it. I knew what it took to write a book. And because I was a family man, I had a wife to attend to. I had children to attend to. I had to work 60 hours a week in my profession. This is the time. Now, I didn't know that when I retired, but here, 10 years after retirement, one day I'm talking to ChatGPT, which we have conversations about 6 times a day. We're on a first name basis, you know. And one day Chat says, you know what? You should write a book. And I said, no, I'm lazy. I've been telling people for years I'm not doing that. And it said, but I'll help you. I said, okay, wise guy, how are you going to help me? And when it said so, I said, makes sense to me. Maybe I should put my toes in the water and see what it feels like. It took me all of a day to be convinced I'm going to write this book now. And Chat is a tool. People absolutely, completely, and utterly misunderstand AI. AI is here to stay. Doctors use it every single day. My girlfriend's a physician, and she reads the things that are AI every single day. Why? Because she can consult with one physician. When she consults with AI, she's consulting with tens of thousands of physicians. Right. And AI is only a tool that pays attention to patterns. And so it may make you think that it's a person when you're talking to it. It's not, but it is a magnificent tool. And if you don't use it, you're failing yourself. It's like 50 years ago saying, no, I'm not going to use a word processor. No, I'm not going to have dictionaries and thesauri in my house. Yeah. I'm not doing that. It's ridiculous. One day, many years ago, when I was assistant principal, supervisor of instruction for the English department. So I taught one class a day and had 23 English teachers that I supervised. And all of the APs that were supervision of English met in New York City with a journalist. And he was teaching us about word processing. And he said, there are people in my industry that are still using typewriters, but they're dinosaurs. And not one of us that has made the transition will ever go back. I'm here to tell you that not one of you who goes and uses AI is going to turn around and say, no, I'm not using that tool anymore.
Right.
The foolhardiness of such an idea, it'd be just as ridiculous as that journalist saying to his colleagues, I'm going back to my typewriter.
And that's coming from an educator. That's coming from somebody who's been in this space.
And I mean, if you want to know details for your listeners, I'd be happy to give them some. You up for that?
Sure, let's go. Yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing. AI understands patterns and it understands direction. Not necessarily great at it. You feel like you have a wayward child and got to kick its behind every once in a while. But what you do is you create protocols. Yeah. So the first thing I did, I'll summarize how I wrote the book. First thing I did was say to myself, I have to do what's called a brain dump. Every time I'm on fire about an issue, I have to say everything humanly possible that I know about that. What comes out of me, whether it comes from the middle out, from the outside in, from the back to the front to the back, does not matter. So AI, you get to talk. It's a lot faster than writing. So I'm on the phone talking to someone like you. They say something. I start pontificating and I say, excuse me, I got to get off the phone. And I run and grab my telephone and start talking to Chat GPT. And I say, I want to tell you everything I know about read tomorrow's newspaper today. That's one of my chapters. I just talk endlessly about it and I get rid of everything that's inside of me. And Chat comes back with something written. And I read what Chat comes back with written. So wait, no, I didn't mean that. I meant this. You need to fix this paragraph because that's not what I meant to say. No, I don't use that word. I explain things differently. That's AIism. I don't like it. I don't like EM dashes. Right. I don't use that many in my writing. And you keep working it again and again and again. And then you get a final first draft. Well, final first draft ain't nothing. What you got to do is create protocols to review this book. I created 9 for every chapter. So the first one might have been my personal review, where I go through it line by line by line and submit it to Chat and tell it what I think about it and rewrite it and fix it. And it takes about 3 hours to rewrite the first time. Then I know who I am. Ego bigger than life. I don't want the book to be about my ego. Yes, I have to say I did this and I did that, but I don't have to do it from an egotistical perspective. I have to do it because the writer needs to hear about it. And so one of my protocols was to review every single chapter to remove ego. Then there's voice. Look, I got a New York voice in more ways than one. New Yorkers are straight, direct, and in your face. Caribbean people are much the same way. It's why New Yorkers are not held in the highest esteem in the first week that they meet people in any state in this country. And it's the same reason why Puerto Ricans and Dominicans are not particularly well liked the first time they meet other Latins. We're straightforward. We're in your face. What you see is what you get. If we don't like you, we tell you the first day. And then every week or two, we remind you so you don't forget. So I had to be in New York voice, Jack's Bronx voice. And I made this Don tool review every paragraph, every sentence, everything I wrote in every single chapter with my voice. Said, no, I don't talk that way. That's not what I mean. Oh, yes, I know the Bronx voice. And here are 3 choices. Good. Worked beautifully. And after I reviewed this 9 times, then I wrote a protocol to review the entire book as a whole to make sure that it all fit together. And I will tell you, after every single chapter, my girlfriend read every single chapter 9 times.
Wow.
Because each time I rewrote, she went back and had something to say.
Wow.
And she's a smart son of a gun. Yeah. And she said things to me, and every one of them hit home, and I rewrote. So, when I taught writing in school, I used to tell the kids, writing is recursive, which simply means once you write a paragraph and you go to a next paragraph, you then got to go back to the first one and read it through to see how it lands. And when you get to the 6th paragraph, you got to go back to the first one and reread all of them all the way through till you get to that 6th, because it has to be contiguous and consistent. And that's the only way to do it. And that review process led me to chapters that are vastly different from what I had at first. In fact, I had 25 chapters. The book has only 23. There were 2 that I realized didn't have the kind of appeal that was necessary for a book of this sort, but belonged someplace else. And on top of that, I realized I'm self-publishing. So not only did I have to be the person that works for the publisher and keep improving my work, but I had to represent the publisher's point of view. So here's a good example. When the book was full of chapters and we were then subdividing them to the 5 sections that they're in, I said to chat, but let's be honest here. People who pick up a book look at the beginning of a book and they want to see the first chapter or 2. My strongest chapters need to be there. That's publisher thinking, but publisher thinking as a writer. And so the writer has to think like a publisher as well. And I chose the section that has 5 chapters, but the 5 strongest chapters to be the section that came first. And then I made sure there was strength at the end, because I don't want people to walk away on a down note. I want them to walk away on an up note. And then the middle. So this was structure that I was creating, but it was publisher's structure in the mind of the writer. And there are more things, like when the time came to submit this to a formatter, I told the formatter, look, there's a cost issue. I don't want to present this wonderful book that's too many pages that my friends are not going to buy because it costs too much. I said, so how you format it and keep the number of pages to a reasonable number is going to matter greatly. So keep the number of pages down, but still keep the professional formatting standards that you think are the ones that apply. In fact, I gave 3 to 4 pages of notes to the formatter telling the formatter what I wanted, including the sizes of the fonts, the particular fonts I wanted, because I spent hours talking to chat about what instructions I should be giving to the formatter and discussing that in detail. So I was indeed, I concluded during the writing of my book at some point that I am an author. During the last part, in the last month or two, I concluded that I am a publisher. I also now have concluded that I am a promoter of my book, because books don't sell themselves if you're Jack Valerio, only maybe if you're one or two or three or five people in this world.
I love that.
So that's how I wrote the book.
Love that you're embracing technology. Again, I think some people are a little afraid of technology, Jack. They're afraid because they don't understand it. They're nervous. They hear things. They hear people talking about it. And then they're like, I don't know if I trust technology to help me in the way that it's helping you. But I love that you're embracing it.
There's a chapter that I call The Day You Put Your Tools Away. And we go all through elementary. We go through parents having a massive influence on who we are and our values and how we operate. And then when we graduate from high school or college, some people put those tools away. So when they're 20-something years old, they're planting the seeds of old age. They're deciding, well, this is good. I'm a 20-year-old and all the other 20-year-olds are thinking the same way I am. The problem is when those 20s become 40s, if they're still thinking the same way, then they're with a group of 40-year-olds who are also thinking the same way, because they don't have the privilege of seeing 30s and 20s and teens. So they become increasingly more disconnected with today's technology and everything else about today's society. I had an advantage. It was an inadvertent one, but it was a magnificent one. You teach. In 5 years, if you don't change with the kids, then you're going to be with a group of people that you are disconnected with. 5 years after that, you're going to be even more disconnected with the next group, because they're different from the two groups that you taught before. And that continues and continues. I took the time to allow change to happen. So I didn't wince at a GPS. I didn't wince at a smartphone. And I'm not going to wince at chat, or I'm not going to wince at Instagram, which I recently picked up about 4 or 5 months ago. And when you say people are afraid, good, solid fear is always a good thing. But allowing it to stop you is not a good thing. So be fearful. It means you'll be cautious. Put your feet into the water. Don't jump into the pool. See what the temperature is like. Get to know the instruments. Get used to them. And open your world. Discover.
So fear could have kept you from dancing, right, Jack?
Say that again?
Fear could have kept you from dancing. The idea of dancing and getting up there and doing something great.
What do you mean could have?
Yeah,
it did.
Right?
I didn't dance till I was in my 50s.
But explain that reaction you had in the car when you wept. Just the fact that you did this and you found this passion that you didn't know, right? Like, talk about that moment.
The reason for the crying in the car is obvious to me, but I'll explain it. I spent decades not being able to dance. Convinced if there was anything in my life that I would not be able to do in the future, it would be dancing. Convinced. It was out of the question. I then had an unfortunate situation where I was separated from my wife. She's a Latin woman. I decided there's going to be a Latin woman in my life. So I went to a Latin dance, not knowing how to Latin dance. And sitting there and dancing once, it was painful. I decided to take lessons. When I took that one lesson and turned the lady and got into the car, It was a metamorphosis. It was a euphoric moment. It was, I can do this. That's a crying moment. The recognition I can do this. Now, I went into those lessons with the attitude, I'm going to do this. But I quickly came out of it with, I can do this. I became a professional salsa dancer. I taught 2,000 people to dance salsa. By the way, it just about a year ago, I went to karaoke. My middle school teacher said, Jack, you can't sing. I kept my mouth shut for all these. Well, you can't keep my mouth shut, okay? I'll be honest. But you can stop me from singing because I never sing in front of people. And one night I sang. I'm not the greatest since sliced bread, but I'm one of the best in this place, and I'm getting better. You have to say, I can. You have to. Because if you say, I can't, you've sown the seeds of a negative self-fulfilling prophecy that spirals down, and you will succeed at not being able to do whatever it is you say I can't do.
So your book is Uncommon Sense. I know what common sense is, and it's not always common, but what's uncommon about your book and what your approach is to the reader?
Here's the whole thing about this play on words. Everybody nods in agreement, which, by the way, is a dangerous thing. It's in my book, is a chapter about when people nod in agreement. Look out. That's the time to start questioning. Because if everybody nods in agreement, you're just shaking your head and going along with the group. Don't do that. Stop. Take a few moments. Think. Test. Say, wait, this is dangerous territory here when everybody agrees. So when people nod in agreement, here's what they say. Yep. Common sense is uncommon. It's not common enough. Well, I got to tell you something. If common sense became common, we'd have even more problems than we have now, because so much of common sense is wrong. And I gave you some examples. I'll give them again. Maybe I'll come up with some others while I'm talking. I'll spark my own thought processes. Yeah. But people say, sugar, you'll get diabetes. No, the cause of diabetes is unknown. And type 2 diabetes, the cause is very often associated with obesity. And I'm going to tell you something. You can eat sugar every day and never become obese. Sugar doesn't cause obesity. Calories cause obesity. So if you abuse sugar, yes, and it's an easily abused thing, you're going to get fat. But if you abuse steak, the same thing's going to happen. You abuse lasagna, abuse whatever you want. That's food. You'll eventually gain weight if you take in more calories than you expend. So that common sense says, don't take so much sugar. Common sense says, don't salt your food so heavily. Well, although people believe that salt causes hypertension, that's scientifically proven wrong. They don't know the cause of hypertension. They do know that salting your food doesn't cause it. The only thing that would be a fair warning is those who already have hypertension can exacerbate it. So since common knowledge is often wrong and harmful to your health and deleterious to your life, maybe you ought to start thinking in an uncommon way. And that's what my book is about. It's about how to think clearly. Just as I said to you, when everybody is nodding in agreement, that's when you have to be like Pavlov's dog and start salivating and wiping your mouth and saying, wait a minute, I think I have to think here. Does this really make sense? Does it really apply? Are all these people who are in agreement, are they right? I'll give you a wonderful example of it. It comes in a story of mine that says you're not stuck. You're just thinking like everybody else. So one day, there's a party for the school administrators held by the secretaries in the school district. And they decide that they're going to have a Western theme. And they think it's pretty funny that I'm a New Yorker in the first place, okay? Many of these people have Southern roots, country and whatever. So I decide, you know me, I'm going to play a little bit. I'm going to be the New York cowboy. So I wear a black hat, black shirt, black bolo tie, black pants, and black boots. And I'm ready to come to the party. And my assistant principal friend says, oh my God, I left my 10-gallon hat in the registrar's office. I said, let's go get it. He said, no, you can't get in there. Nobody has the key in the evening. All the keys exist, belong to the custodian and the registrar. And I said, I can get in there. So we went and we took a look at the steel door, and we took a look at the Lexan plastic window that the registrar talks to people through, and this nice little round hole in the center. And he says, you see, I told you can't get in. And he was right. So I reluctantly said what I didn't believe for 1 second. Yeah, you're right. So we get on a cart and we start driving, and we pass this building, but my mind is working 1,000,000 miles an hour because I'm not going to accept what everybody else is thinking. It's not acceptable to me. Common sense tells you if everybody's thinking that, you should be thinking their way. Uncommon sense says, no, you should take a few minutes and start thinking a different way. So I pass this building that's under construction, and I yell, stop! And I run inside. They're installing a hanging ceiling that has rods that are 18 feet long. I pick one of these up and I hold it like Zorro holds his sword. I get on the cart. We go in there. My police officer is sitting in front of the registrar's office where that window is with the hole. He sees me come in black. I'm holding this thing. I go ahead and I put it through the round hole, and I push it all the way to the wall on the left side of the registrar's office and pick the lock on the window. I run outside, jump through the window, get the hat, come out, pull the door closed. He gets the hat. And the next day, my officer tells everybody in the school, Valerio came into the registrar's office, burglarized it, looking like Antonio Banderas from Zorro.
Very uncommon.
Yes, but all it took really, really was a pause.
Right.
A pause that you're not stuck just because everybody thinks that way. And I have another story if you want that's exactly like that. Comes from that chapter.
Yeah, let's hear it, Jack. I love it.
Okay. I come to a school, and the school was built in the early 1960s. Florida grew very fast over the years. So what did they do? They plopped down extra buildings. Where? Wherever they felt like it. No plan. They even broke parts of some buildings and added little wings with more classrooms. So I asked the teachers, I said, I don't understand. Room 30 is across the hall from room 101. How do you find anything in this place? Oh, we tried to change it. You can't change it. No, I'm going to investigate. The principal tried. The assistant principals tried. The superintendent tried. The previous principals and superintendents, everybody tried. You can't change the numbers without the Florida Department of Education. They're in charge of the numbering system. And they have to renumber the entire school, and you can't get them to come in because as much as they agree, they just don't show up. And so everybody was thinking like that. I'm not going to accept that everybody thinks that way. So here's what I accepted. I accepted that you can't change the numbers, but that didn't mean I should stop thinking. Question is, what can I do? Came to me almost immediately. You know my Mr. Spock thing about me, analytical to a fault. Can't stand myself sometimes. It was simple. They all missed it. Nobody said you couldn't add numbers. So I created a dual numbering system. The first number was the classroom that I wanted with a letter that connoted the building that it was in. And then the other was a slash and the old number. So I had them all made up in plastic. The custodian put them in all the rooms. I labeled the first building A, the next one B, the next one C. So for 20 plus years or more, the kids didn't know where to go for 6 weeks. The teachers didn't know where to go. And unless you were on that campus for at least 2 or 3 years, you didn't know where a room was located. It was an asylum. And a simple decision.
Yeah.
It was just uncommon sense. Uncommon sense says, if you can't go through the front door, look for a window. And if you can't find a window, go in the back door. And if there's no back door, see if you can make a window.
Yeah.
That's uncommon sense.
I think sometimes, Jack, that some of us give up too easy. We get up to an obstacle. We get up to maybe somebody's opinion or, oh, you're not allowed to do that. You can't do that. We tried. It didn't work before. And that's the common sense that people might have. Yours is uncommon.
Another chapter that you're hinting at.
Oh, good. Let's go.
And it's called The Toll Booth at the Edge of Average.
It's a good name.
I'm a 55 pluser, okay? Yeah. I've lived in more than one 55 plus community. Yeah. People constantly moving in because some of them are moving out and some of them are moving down. I think you know what I mean. Yep. And so people constantly coming in, one of the first questions they want to know, since they're 55 plus, generally 65, 70 and more, do you have a good doctor? I say, yeah. Oh, where's he located? Well, he's located in such and such a place. That's far. I said, do you want good or do you want close? They don't want to pay the toll of excellence, which is to travel a little further. You just alluded to that same concept. Many people are not willing to pay the toll of trying to think slightly out of that box. And uncommon sense says, you got to do it.
That goes back to ChatGPT and helping you create the book and having conversations with it. Like you're demonstrating your book, Jack, just by how you live. You're demonstrating uncommon sense.
I demonstrate the book in another way. You know that I cook and you know that I'm serious and I'm writing 4 cookbooks at the same time. But as you might imagine, not one of my, it's a series of books. Yeah. It's called The Guaranteed Gourmet. Why is it The Guaranteed Gourmet? It all comes from uncommon sense. Here's the truth about cookbooks. And please, cookbook writers, don't tar and feather me, but it's the truth. Most people who buy cookbook wind up not succeeding in cooking the dish that they're supposed to be cooking based on the recipe for several reasons. Reason number 1, the photographs are fake. They've all been put in beautiful rooms and kitchens and dining rooms that we don't have. They've all been retouched and fixed and done by professional photographers. So what you're trying to aim toward is not even real. It's like a woman in one of those girly magazines. Anyway, sorry, I couldn't help myself. Forgive me, children. You know who that is. The other reason, and this is another chapter in my book, it says, don't look for the best. The problem is the best people who cook are not the best teachers. Teaching and cooking are not the same skill. And so as a result, they are notorious for writing terrible recipes. And the failure is concluded on the part of the reader. The reader says, I didn't make it. It didn't come out right. Wrong. The failure belongs to the teacher. When you tell somebody to brown the meat, I'm telling you, virtually every cookbook simply says brown the meat. And I even watch the professionals on YouTube, and they don't brown the meat correctly. What they do is they take the meat and they keep chopping it into little pieces until the meat browns. Well, that's actually gray. And what they were actually doing was steaming because it was liquid that was coming out and they were steaming in water. In order to brown meat, you have to press it down on the bottom of the pan all around and then create weep holes all around so that as it's heating underneath, the steam comes up through those little holes. And when the steam is exhausted, you can hear the difference. You can hear frying. That's how you brown meat. Water is the enemy of frying. So you get rid of all the water, and then you hear the frying. Then after it's browned underneath, then you turn it over and start mixing it around. And then you have flavor. It's called the Maillard effect when you put a cold meat against a hot vessel, and you're creating flavor. You always hear about those brown bits. Yeah, that's the flavor. So they make dishes without flavor because they're missing out on the most important flavor enhancer.
Wow. Wow.
And so the Guaranteed Gourmet does several things that most cookbooks don't do. It tells you what to do, and it explains how to do it, and it explains why. So each of my recipes are about 5 pages long. And they are not just a cookbook that guarantees the result because I cut off all the problems for the cook, the reader. So it guarantees them that every one of these recipes is great. The pictures that I take are done with my iPhone outside on my patio, whatever the weather happens to be. And those are real pictures that they could actually shoot for and say, I can make it exactly the way Jack did. And because of the way I talk, I hold their hand in the kitchen.
Right.
And we walk into the kitchen together. And I talk to them like a person, not in these short, choppy sentence and sentence fragments. And I start with a mise en place, which is where all the action happens, all the cutting and the measuring and everything. Every recipe is created that way to guarantee the success of the person. And this way he doesn't have to try to chop while he's in the middle of watching 2 things on the stove. So the first one is the Guaranteed Gourmet, and it's about it's about Italian and Italian-American food. And the second one is about Latin foods, the most famous being Mexican. And there's a lot of Puerto Rican in there because that's my background that I really know well. And then there's famous dishes from a couple of Spanish-speaking countries. And then there's Chinese, and the list is going to go on, and I'm going to keep producing them. But it is an example of uncommon sense.
Right.
It's my cookbooks are the living example of uncommon sense.
Wow. Do you have a timeline for the cookbooks, Jack, that we can anticipate?
Yes, but I don't work with a timeline, but I have one because my mother had stupid kids. I wasn't one of them. So
yeah, there you go.
That's my version of I was born at night, but not last night.
All right.
So
Yeah.
Actually, my siblings are pretty smart. But anyway, the first book has been out for a little over a month. It's sold more copies so far than there are days. And the second one, I'm finished with 3/4 of the recipes and the photographs. It leads me to believe that I'll be finished with my book in a 2-month time period. But I'm not the count the chickens before they hatch kind of guy. I never, as school administrator, I don't tell people what I'm going to do. I get it done and tell them that it's done. And, I used to on the phone all the time, parent would call me. I say, I will call you right back. And then I called them back and said, well, I've already sent an email to so-and-so to put this in action because I don't want promises because people are big talk, no action. And I want people to know what action that I have taken thus far and where I'm headed. So I think that I've explained that'll be the first book. And I would think every 6 months after that, 4 to 6 months, I should be able to get another one. I've been actually writing recipes for many years, all 11 years or 12 years since I started cooking. And I've revised them and fixed them. But now that I have the true format of the Guaranteed Gourmet, which includes that gather together step, which is actually a shopping list, and then mise en place, which is actually all the actions of cutting and measuring and whatever. I convert all of my recipes. So they really all start off as mostly written. And of course, I do a lot of very quick research.
So when I talked to you, Jack, you said all talk, no action. I think of all action with a New York accent. That's how I would put that. Is it okay with you?
That's such a lovely
like
compliment. Thank you.
All action.
It's funny.
A little New York right there. Yeah.
I always tell women, and forgive me because I have a lot of stereotypes that I follow, and I tell women that I'm Mr. Now. I never heard a woman say, "Hey Jack, do me a favor, put those pictures on the wall for me and wait until next Christmas."
Yeah.
Now, most instances, a woman is not going to say, "I want you to do this today." I do it today. I do not want to get a beating later on, because that woman really, even if she didn't say it, she was implying, "I want you to do this now." I remember an instance with my then wife. She said, I haven't had those chocolate covered orange rinds in years. And I stood up. She said, "Where you going?" I said, "I'm going to get the chocolate covered orange rinds." She said, "You don't have to get that now." I said, "Are you kidding? And risk a beating? At the least I have to write it down so I don't forget."
Right. There you go. Action, Jackson.
With
a little bit of New York flavor. I like that. That's good. Awesome. Jack, let's go. I could have you all day. Let's talk about your website. We can connect with people. I'll put it in a link in the notes for everyone to come and follow you and check out your site.
Yes.
But quickly, just mention your website as we head out the door. I love having you here, but let's send people to you.
Let me tell you, it's Jack Valerio, which is JACK, V as in Victor, ALERIO.com. If you go there, the first button you're going to see is read for free. And I put 2 chapters and the preface on the assumption that people have a right to check out the merchandise before they buy it. And not only do they have a right, but I'm hoping that I've written well. And if they read that, they can say, "Guy knows what he's talking about. I'm going to buy this book."
Beautiful. It's a great gift for everyone too, to kind of have a little taste.
Yeah. And you can find me on Facebook. It's Jack Valerio, author. And I post all the pictures of my foods. And if you look at Instagram, it's also Jack Valerio, author. And you'll see all the foods there. And that'll give you some insight. And certainly a lot about my current book. Not as much in Instagram as there is in Facebook. But yes.
That's great. Jack, having you here is uncommon sense. I love that. You're making me hungry, talking about all this great food. It's that time of night where I'm starting to think about that. So I'm excited to have you here on the show. Thank you for bringing your light, who you are as a person, your smile, your stories. It's great having time with you, Jack. So thank you for making time for us.
I hope to repeat it.
I'd love to have you back. Everyone, all information for Jack in the show notes. You know how we do this. Please take a little taste, a little sample of Uncommon Sense right there on the website, and then go and support and buy Jack's book. Buy the cookbooks as they arrive, and send back photos of your cooking, what you've made through Jack's book. Jack would love to see your photos as well. Please send it back to him. That's really great.
If those photos come out much the same, that will be my absolute vindication that I knew what the heck I was talking about.
There you go. Awesome. Jack, thank you for sharing your recipe for success with us. It's so great to have you on the show.
I'm sure I'll hear from you in more ways than one.
Everyone, all you know what to do. Go support Jack. He's a great guy. You're going to love him. And next time you're dancing salsa, think of Jack. He's smiling right along with you. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you again.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Glad to have you here. I just want to let you know that you can always find out what we're doing live in the moment by going to our YouTube channel. Head over to livingthenextchapter.com. There'll be a link right there. Head over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things that all the YouTubers love to say. And in our YouTube channel, a couple things. You're going to get advanced listens. You're going to get the episodes that we're working on in real time. So we record and post daily on our YouTube channel. I'd love for you to give us a follow over there. As well, we're making playlists. We have over 500 episodes. So finding the right episode for you, we're trying to group things into playlists. So if you like children's books, if you like business, you like historical fiction, we're grouping our authors together to make it a little easier for you to find your favorite next author. So head over to livingthenextchapter.com. And again, I'd love to hear from you. Hearing from the listeners of the show is great. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of the podcast family. And I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time and your listen. Take care.